sharing?
It's now streaming.
Okay, go for it.
Excellent. Great. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Planning Committee meeting at Footpath Council. We're trying this new hybrid arrangement with people in person in the council chamber and everyone else zooming in. So please bear with us. It was a little bit crunchy at times. Thank you all for joining us tonight in person virtually. We've kept the numbers small in the room here to ensure the meeting is as safe as possible, and all other council staff and public are attending for legal reasons. Only the councillors present in person will be able to vote. It's far from ideal, as you all know, and we hope we can arrange the best system for our next meeting where all councillors will get to vote. Otherwise, we'll be running the meeting in the usual way with everyone and anyone who chipping in as we go along. You're all very welcome, obviously, wherever you are. As ever, we're also live streaming via our YouTube channel. With all participants, town councillors and staff, please mute yourself until I or Hannah ask you to speak. Please use the electric blue or yellow hand to ask a question. Click the yellow hand at the bottom of your screen and by pressing the reaction button. The councillors present in the chamber, please raise your orange votes. Please raise your hand and we'll work it accordingly. The votes will be recorded by Jen and Hannah. Please forgive me if we need to end the discussion and go to a vote at a time that's short. We have 3 attendees registered today, I think, and you're also all very welcome. If you're not presenting or discussing, please ask your questions through the Q&A board, and we'll patch you each other and speak. We'll be managing this, and I will moderate questions along with Joe. For those in the room, please raise your hand if you want. So without further ado, the first item on the agenda is usual questions, comments, information from the public and councillors. Any questions from the public first?
No one's raised their hand.
No. Great. Any questions or comments from councillors? No. Excellent. Great. Item number 2 on the agenda. Apologies for absence and declaration of members' interest.
So we've got apologies from Rich Ackroyd and Lizzie Boyle.
Great. And declaration of interest from.
I have item 595, 7 College Place. The applicants are close friends, and Robin is my most recent partner.
Great. Thank you very much. Any more? No. Great. Item number 3 on the agenda to agree the minutes of the meeting held 13th of May, which I believe everyone has seen. I have them here. If I could get someone to propose those, please. Thank you, Mark. Someone to second. Thanks, Paul. And all those in favour.
That's unanimous for those councillors in the room.
Great. Sign those. Excellent. Item number 4 on the agenda. To consider the major plan applications received as per Appendix 1. And we're going to start off with, actually I'm going to pass over to Jane. Jane, over to you.
Thank you. So the first application that we're going to discuss is number 578 on our list. It's an application by Aitchison and Aitchison. And at this point, if I could ask Hannah to transfer Joe and Simon across to panelists, please.
Okay, just to let the rest of the attendees know, anything that's sent to panelists will now be sent to the bringing names just mentioned there. Just making panelists so we can shortly rejoin.
Okay, brilliant. So welcome to Simon, Ewan and Joe. And at this point, as I discussed with Joe previously, I'm going to hand over for him to talk us through their proposals, and then we'll have the opportunity to ask any questions afterwards. Over to you, Joe.
That's great, Jane. Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. Cool. Well, maybe first if I just make some introductions. So my name's Joe Patrick, and I'm the Operations Director at Atchison. So I'm really pleased to be able to join you this afternoon and sort of outline some of the plans that we intend to, to make and in order to expand the operation in our main factory, which is based in Frome. Also on the call is Ewan Kelly of Ewan Kelly Property Solutions, who's been supporting us with the planning application and design process, and Simon Tong, who's from Chetwood's Architects, who's obviously been helping us with the architectural design. Yeah, thanks again for having us on the call today. So in terms of what we wanted to run through today, I was just going to outline a little bit about sort of the business for those of you that don't know, the main objectives of the scheme that we're proposing, and then we were going to share some drawings of the scheme, just again to make sure everyone understands sort of what we're looking to do, and then through some of the engagement activities that we've already we've already gone through with be that local residents, the Colwell Lane Residents Association, and a number of yourselves as well. We just wanted to address some of the points that have come up as part of that process, and then obviously open the floor to any other questions that you may have. So hopefully that's okay as a sort of rough plan or agenda for the period we've got today. Great. So essentially, for those of you that don't know, Acheson and Acheson is a beauty product development company, and we also manufacture the goods that we develop. We're currently spread over 5 sites, soon to be 6, but many of those are sort of smaller offices that we're sort of temporarily in due to the rate at which the company is growing. The business is mainly spread over Frome and Trowbridge, but within the Frome area, which obviously we'll focus on today, we've got 2 locations on the Cornbrash estate. One is the main Acheson factory, which we're discussing today, and the other site is just across the road from Acheson, which is the old Primavera site, which some of you may or may not be familiar with. So A&A, as a sort of local business, was a family-run business until 2018, when it was then sold to the Hut Group, which is, recently, floated on the stock exchange last year, and is a global sort of organisation that mainly focuses on beauty and wellness products, direct to consumer. So A&A was a really strategic purchase for THG because it allowed us to then, do our own manufacturing of our own brands. And since the acquisition, we've essentially transferred a lot of the production of THG's products into the A&A factory, which has obviously led to substantial growth, within the business and, jobs to the Frome area. Because of what we do, it's a complex manufacturing business. We've got a range of different employees. The sort of actual process or cooking part, if you like, of manufacturing is a really technical skill, and it takes about 2 years for us to train our operators up to use the vessels on their own. And of course, we've got engineers and such, along with development chemists and all that sort of stuff. So some really sort of skilled jobs there. I spoke about the growth. So when we acquired A&A in 2018, we were at 315 employees. I've just done a count before this call, and we're now at 678 across the whole business. So that's more than doubling in 2.5 years. All to the local area. We're obviously want to continue sort of the growth ambitions and the plans that we've got, but we are very much sort of at capacity with the building that we've got as it stands. We have put on a night shift through sort of August last year to sort of support with the capacity constraints, given we're out of sort of physical space. So we're currently running a 24/5 operation, so just Sunday evening through till Friday evening. In terms of the factory itself, obviously it's really important for us as a reputable business to be sustainable with how we're operating. So last year we achieved carbon neutral certification, and that's just the first step, which we haven't really spoken or shouted much about, because obviously, as I'm sure many of you know, sort of the journey to net zero is really the thing that's important, as opposed to just offsetting. So we've in that vein, we've established a relationship with Stormboard, who some of you might know in Frome, who are a really innovative sort of local business, and now we've actually set up a scheme in partnership with THG where now all of our customers can send back their hard to recycle beauty products, like the packaging, and then we'll sort that, work with Stormboard to reprocess it into materials such as park benches, or even as part of the proposed extension, we're going to be using some materials from Stormboard for the actual building itself. So sort of a nice sort of local story there with how we're sort of trying to sustainably manage our waste. And of course there's lots of other things that we're looking at, solar panels as part of this design and getting an extensive array, but we're also investigating a dry factory concept for water consumption and all other sort of things, but I won't bore you all with that now. So yeah, in short, I guess that's a little bit more about like the business and sort of what we're trying to achieve, and the sort of growth plans that were the trajectory that we've been on, and the trajectory that we want to sort of continue to go on, if we can. I now sort of wanted to touch base with the actual drawing, so I wonder whether Simon could pull that up for me, and then we can get into the sort of detail of the actual scheme. Did anyone have any questions sort of to any of the points there? I didn't hear anything, so I'll carry on if that's right.
Okay. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Great. So Simon, maybe if you don't mind, if I could maybe just hand over to you to just sort of talk through obviously we've got the existing building and our boundary line, and then maybe you could just sort of a very high level just talk through sort of the proposed extension and changes.
Yeah, no problem. Do you want to go ahead, or do you want me to? Fine. So essentially here you've got the red line boundary of the estate that we've got at the moment. The existing building is this sort of L shape. So what we are proposing with the planning application is to essentially extend the factory in the bottom right hand corner here, so that we can essentially expand parts of the operation that we've got in the existing building into the space that we'll be creating to allow for additional capacity. I won't worry about talking through the existing building, but maybe Simon, if you could just go on to the proposed site layout. Great. So really in yellow here for ease is sort of the highlighted changes that are associated with this application. So if I just start in the top left, just because that's the sort of the smaller bit. At the moment we've got obviously goods vehicles that bring our componentry and things like that to the factory, and it's not a particularly efficient way of that we've got currently in terms of transferring goods from the lorry into the factory. Obviously we've got sort of forklifts moving around outside. They have to beat their horns when they leave the building for safety reasons, etc. And obviously people, if we can pull people off forklifts, then it would be preferred. So essentially we're proposing to put in some dock bay levelers in the back at the top left hand corner of the factory. This will mean that sort of forklift movements to the exterior of the building we can reduce, and obviously any noise sort of associated with those activities that we do at the moment. So that's fundamentally about transferring goods from lorries into the building. We've then got the sort of like main proposed extension. So obviously you can see this sort of completes the rectangle of the building, if you like, and essentially within the building, we have sort of three main sections. On the left-hand side, there is proposed to be additional warehouse storage. So this will be sort of high-rise racking, similar to the one you can see in warehouse 1, which is on the left-hand side. So that'll be sort of like racking for storage. And then to the right-hand side of the proposed extension, the far right, sorry, Simon, we are essentially, with the increased sort of capacity that we create, we want to increase the sort of facilities that we have available for our staff. As the building's grown, you know, over the last X amount of years, and various different modules have been added on, the actual training facilities and all of that sort of good stuff, and canteens is just, you know, not as good as it could be, or not as good as the standards that we want. So we're proposing to sort of create an entirely new block of changing facilities for hygiene purposes. And up on the first floor to that area, we're also going to be putting in a staff canteen, which will be, you know, a bit of a catered service for employees to sort of enjoy in their lunch break, and just have a bit of a sort of breakout area where they can, you know, mingle with their colleagues as they wish. And then just centrally to the rectangle that I'm speaking through now, we're proposing will be an extension of our filling hall locations. So this is where we take then the bulk material after cooking it, if you like, and we put the bulk into the individual containers, you know, pots of moisturizer or shampoo or conditioner or whatever you care to think of from a beauty product perspective. Externally, obviously there's additional car parking on the right hand side to account for the additional headcount that we're proposing to be on site, or, you know, allowing for on site. In the far sort of south area, we are proposing a bit of a nice landscaped area, again for a sort of staff breakout, well-being space. And obviously we're conscious to, you know, try and be as understanding as well to the corridors that are along that south boundary as well, and reduce impact as much as possible. And then there's, you know, also to just add is the sprinkler tank just in the bottom right hand corner. So, you know, we're obviously looking to use this as an opportunity to make the building more resilient. We don't have sort of sprinkler systems presently, so, you know, we're scoping out to be able to put a sprinkler system in to the whole site over time, for obviously sort of business protection, if there was a, you know, in the unlikely event of a catastrophic sort of fire or anything like that. I think I'll probably just sort of pause there for the time being, if that's okay. Were there any initial questions, or maybe, you know, Jane, I know we've already sort of had a discussion on the plans. I don't know if there were any other key points to call out, or Simon or Ewan. I'm not sure how much detail everyone would like me to sort of go into. I can obviously speak for the next hour and a half if you'd like, but I'm sure you've got other things as well to be getting on with.
Over to you.
Oh, over to me. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, as we discussed earlier, I think when we saw the pre-application with yourselves, one of the two main issues were perhaps the noise associated with the extension and the impact that might have on the residents of Colway Lane. I noted that in your design and access statement, it actually makes reference to some of the existing condenser units being moved from ground level to the roof. And then obviously some additional units added, I think 23 to be added, and that an air handling unit will also be included on the roof. The noise impact assessment, as usual, I went straight to the conclusion, which says that the predicted noise levels at all locations are predicted to be significantly lower than the local authority specified noise limits values for daytime and nighttime. So, you know, I just wondered if I know you had some discussions with the local residents, you know, how they feel about the noise impacts, or whether or not they are satisfied with the outcome of the noise impact assessment.
Can I just jump in and clarify a point that was just made there? Yes, there is a roof plant deck, which is essentially 2 meters wide. That is to facilitate the relocation of some existing condenser units on that sort of south-facing elevation. So obviously, if we were to build the extension, we need to think about how we can get the existing condensers to a place where it was externally located, and the current proposed location for that is a plant deck in between the valley of the new extension and the existing factory building. So as you can see where my cursor is, it's sunken, it's within the valley. It's a good few meters lower than the existing ridge line of the building. And the other point I wanted to clarify was that you mentioned that there's going to be additional air handling unit externally. That is actually going to be housed internally within the building, within a plant room. So the noise of that will be attenuated anyway. So it's just the condenser units that we have on the roof plant deck there.
And I guess the point to sort of maybe touch on there is, you know, other options could have been for us to, you know, push everything back and relocate some of those units to the far edge of, you know, closest to the boundary line and the residents. So we've really sort of, in installing the plant deck, the deck on the roof, and internalizing the condensers which are currently outside, you know, if they were in the same position, you know, we're making every effort to keep it as, you know, keep these condenser units, which was raised by, I think Tom, sorry, I forget his surname, but of Colway Lane Residents Association. We had some really good conversations with Tom, who's definitely got good experience in acoustics and sound, you know, on sort of potential additional solutions and technologies, as Simon said, to attenuate any noise from the unit. So we feel we've been quite proactive with that in addressing those concerns.
Right, thanks.
No, sorry, I thought I put my hand up because I just noticed I've been muted. Yeah, just another point to note is that the location of the proposed plant deck, in terms of distance from the existing acoustic fence on the bund, is exactly the same distance of what it is existing at the moment. So if I show you the site section, the existing condensers, the existing site section here, the top one, the existing condensers are here, and our proposed plant deck is there. So they are roughly in the same location and will be exactly the same distance from the acoustic bund as existing now. Yeah.
Hi, evening, everyone. Hi, sorry, I thought I'd just add a couple of pieces as well. Good to see you all, and thanks very much for giving us the opportunity to speak this evening. Just to add a couple of final pieces, I think Joe and Simon have very eloquently talked through the position on the noise survey. I think just to explain, we're the town planning consultants working with Aitchison on the project, and when we commenced work on the project, one of the very first things we did was engage with Mendip Council. So Anna Clark, we knew she was the experienced case officer who's worked on projects at Commerce Park for many years. So we engaged with her way back in November, started those discussions, and I think what was very clear as being an absolute priority for A&A throughout the whole project was noise, the noise impact assessment. So what we recommended was that the acoustic consultants be appointed as soon as possible, which is what took place. And the client approached acoustic consultants who've got very good experience with Commerce Park. I think they've worked on there for a number of years. I think they do the I think it's a biannual survey of the noise levels, so they really know the context in terms of noise limits. And what we wanted to do was make sure that before the application was even close to being submitted, make sure that it was being tested and meeting the requirements, which is what their findings confirmed that it did. And we found today that the environmental protection officers at the council have written to confirm they've got no objection with the proposals and that they're happy with the findings of the report. So hopefully we've done all we can to give residents and obviously council officers as much comfort that the noise won't be an issue as a result of the scheme.
What's the other concern, Jim?
So the second concern was the footpath link, which the design and access statement makes reference to the footpath as a route to the estate. And when we spoke at the pre-application stage, we expressed our desire to see that upgraded in some way, because when it's raining, it isn't a very good path. In fact, it can be impassable for pedestrians. And this is also something that we have stated in our consultation response on the adjoining application for the new business units. There is currently no bus route to the site, and the only other option is to drive there, and obviously we're very keen to make sure that as many people can access the site safely on foot as possible. The alternative route along the road is longer and not that safe, obviously with the traffic on the roads. And just wondered whether or not you had any thoughts about how, if you would be able to upgrade that path, or if you would go on with the applicants for the adjoining.
Yeah, so maybe if I just touch on that one, and then I don't know if you and I'll have anything to add. I mean, firstly, with the bus route, we'd be really keen to explore options to get to understand whether a bus route might be possible to Commerce Park. I was just again looking before the call, and out of the 670 employees, I think 235 actually live in a Frome postcode, the BA11. So, clearly there's a lot of there would be a lot of demand, certainly from our site and many others on Commerce Estate, to hopefully make that make a bus route a viable option. I'm not sure what the thresholds are, but we'd certainly be keen to explore what opportunities there are there for for the benefit of our employees, as well as the other businesses on the estate. In terms of the footpath, I think obviously Jane and I had a good conversation on this one earlier, and I think the first point of call is to really understand the owner of the land which the footpath falls on, and I think we understand that might be like a green lane, but is sort of maintained by Somerset County Council, although we obviously need to get that confirmed. And yeah, we'd be open to having discussions
you know, in terms of, you know, what might be achievable for the path, because again, you know, we've got an interest in that a number of our employees, you know, will use that path, I'm sure, to get to and from work. And you know, we want to make sure that, you know, even through winter or rain or whatever, they can still get to work safely. You know, with that being a priority. So yeah, you know, I think it's come up before, and we need to sort of, you know, understand, you know, what the potential next steps might be, and who the relevant parties are. But you and I don't know if you had any sort of other points on the path.
Yeah, no, thanks very much indeed, Joe. I think that, I mean, just to echo Joe's comments, I know that HSNH will be really keen to have those discussions and see what might be possible. I think one key thing we want to do is, of course, engage with Anna Clark. I think she's on leave at the moment, back in next week, and we just need to catch up with her on the application in due course, because we know that I think the consultation's still running on at the moment. I know there's still responses coming in. I think the key question would be whether this is something the council would seek to encourage through the application. I suspect they may not, in the sense that there are various tests they have to meet when they're seeking contributions. So that'd be a first question that we would certainly ask Anna and her team. It may indeed end up being a situation where the conversations between A and A yourselves on making those upgrades to the footpath are maybe outside of this application process. But I think, again, what Joe said is absolutely right. We'll certainly look into it and see what can be achieved in the coming weeks.
Thank you. And just for your information and anyone else's information, we have received comments from the Civil Society, who have said similarly, they've no objection in principle, but further developments at Commerce Park should not be permitted until significant cycle and pedestrian access issues are resolved. There's no point of proposing cycle storage unless adequate cycle paths are provided. Similarly, the photograph from the design and access statement illustrates the poor quality of the public right of way parallel to the southwest boundary of the site, adjoining the housing area. Upgrading would allow access to be provided from the proposed cycle storage area directly over the bund to connect to the public right of way. And they're also just saying that the roof, the design and access statement states that the roof will be strong enough for PV. So there should be a condition that PV is installed during construction. Perhaps we time for councillors to ask some questions now.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, guys, for the presentation. I'd like to just pick up on that last point about the PV. Is that something that you're looking to do a construction phase, or is that something that is going to be today? Is there a plan for that?
So I'm personally, I'm really passionate about this, with the sort of like linking with sustainability, and we actually had sort of full plans to cover the existing plans. We were pulling together proposals to put solar across the existing structure, and then when we did the extension, do that as a phase 2. As it happens, across the group, we're now sort of looking at the entire portfolio of properties within THG. We're looking at like the total energy demands of all of those businesses, and across the portfolio we're trying to make sure that we are covering as much energy, you know, green energy generation via solar or other means as we can. So that's unfortunately meant that instead of sort of me being able to just proceed in isolation with as opposed to the rest of the group, it's been sort of pulled into a much bigger beast to see what we can do through the whole of the UK. I can't answer that question now as to whether it's going to be at construction or not, because, as I said, that tender piece is all being pulled together, but the intention certainly is to do it at the point where we're doing construction, partly because of the fact that we'll obviously have the likes of scaffolding up and around, and it'll be a construction site, so it's the perfect time to do it. If we don't do it during the construction, then we inevitably will incur sort of additional cost to reset up the infrastructure around the roof that's needed to install PV. So a long answer, but in short, it's all going to come down to timings of when the group solar packages are sort of tied together and confirmed. But certainly, within the next 2 years, the intention is that all the roof will be covered with solar.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Paul.
Can you hear me all right? Oh, that thing, there's a, okay, you can hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of pick up really on, well, I'm pleased that you have kind of ambitions to reduce your environmental impact, which is great. I just wanted to really pick up on the travel to the site. Obviously, Commerce Park, there's a big problem with Commerce Park generally, like many of these parks, where most employees travel by car.
Yeah.
And I'd like to be reassured. I mean, you've got, we've talked about the footpath, you've got cycle storage on there, which personally I think could be probably better than designed. I think I'd like to see that upgraded. But the main thing really is I'd like to be reassured that you'll be making a kind of serious contribution to encouraging staff to travel to the site by means other than the car, be it by bus, be it by bicycle, be it by on foot. But, it's one thing putting the infrastructure, which would definitely be welcome, but also I think staff need to be encouraged to use that, and as a kind of culture change, if you like.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we launched the Cycle to Work scheme towards the sort of end of last year, but we'd love for what 20% of employees, given it so a lot of them live so close to the site to be cycling through, but the uptake on the Cycle to Work scheme hasn't been as strong as we'd sort of first hoped. So yeah, I mean, of course we're doing a big wellbeing program at the moment, and obviously being with the wider group being the two main divisions of sort of wellness, with that being sports nutrition and beauty, and we've actually got a business a brand called Pro Bike Kit, which you might have heard of, as part of the group. So just thinking on the spot here, what we could be doing is, whilst staff have got discount codes for things like Pro Bike Kit and all that sort of stuff, we could increase those incentives when we have evidence of people actually using the cycle to work scheme, or it's all very well getting cycle to work scheme, but actually cycling in. So I'm more than happy to sort of take that point on board and see what we can do to like meaningfully get some change, as opposed to various incentives that might not actually have much impactful as opposed to meaningful. Sorry, I should have said.
Right.
I mean, with other sites in other areas, are there any sort of good initiatives or things that you've come across that would be worth us knowing or hearing about? I don't know if this is the right forum to ask those sort of questions, but
I don't know. I can't think of any examples now. And we're at an interesting point, I think, where people are becoming much more aware of the need for this shift, and we need to be encouraging it to happen wherever we can. But we're in the early days of it, I think.
Yeah, I guess the other thing as well is like electric vehicles and provision for that. But I know we've got some charging points already through our Trowbridge sites, but at the moment there's not enough people using them. But obviously that's gonna change hopefully. And if we've got the solar, then it all sort of ties in and makes sense.
Thanks. Any other questions? Great. Okay. Thanks very much, guys. Jane, do we vote on this? Because it's not actually our ward, is it?
We are going to send a formal consultation response on behalf of the town council. So yes, it is
Right.
something that we need to vote on.
Okay. Right, so where are we at the moment? I think we're clear, aren't we, that we want the path, sort of, the path upgrading is quite key, isn't it?
I'm just writing a suggested response. Can you go me too quickly?
Sorry.
I think where we are is that we have no objection to the proposed extension. However, we would want to see the footpath upgraded to enable year-round use by pedestrian and cyclists. A bus route should be investigated, and active and green travel options should be actively promoted and encouraged to staff.
We're happy with that?
Maxine.
Oh, Maxine, sorry.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Cool. I just wondered if there could just be something in there, just to say, can we please also ask that communication with residents continues throughout the whole process and beyond, so that there is positive, active communication with residents. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Max.
So John did.
John. It's John Nelson.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm back. I don't know. If are we allowed to say something positive? Because we could commend the scheme generally for its good intentions as well, but also the importance of it for the employment in this region. I don't know if we generally say that, but I think that's an important part of the proposal in the first place, and their efforts to actually make it environmentally sustainable, etc., should be commended.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I think we all agree. I think on our first comments when we first looked at it, we very much welcome the increasing employment and the efforts that they're making. So we can definitely reiterate that.
I've just recorded that to add to the response. So if you are happy with the additional suggestion from Maxine and John, so we would need to propose that.
Thank you, Paul. Someone second, thank you, Mark. That's going to take the vote.
And that's unanimous from the voting councillors and agreed.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Ewan. Thanks, Simon. And wish you all the best in the future developments.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for sort of the invitation and your time tonight.
Thank you. Thanks.
Take care. Bye.
I think the next one we're going to discuss, well, James getting a paper ready, is number 584, which is 95 Locks Hill. True? Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. So that is number 584 on our list. And as I always forget to say it, I'm going to say it now, just to assure anybody who is viewing the meeting that councillors have looked at all the plans in advance. Previously, we would have 8 copies of the plans and we would pass them around. Obviously, that's not something that we can do at the moment. And if they want to double check something during the meeting, they can look at the plans on their devices, or I can share the plans on my screen.
Your own place.
And somebody has got their own plans. So then, as I said, this application is the 95 Locks Hill Bridge, which some of you may know better as the former Locks Hill surgery. And you may also remember that we looked at a previous planning application on this site for the erection of, I think, 7 dwellings. We had formally objected to that previous application for the dwellings on the grounds of the impacts that it would have on the neighbours and surrounding properties. That application was refused at the end of April, and so now the application that we see before us is actually to change the use of the building to a residential dwelling, which essentially keeps the original building as it is. I with no external changes and a bit of roof lights?
Yeah, there's a, sorry, do you want me to? Yeah, there's a.
Sorry, Louise trustees here from.
Well, I'm the applicant, so
Right.
it's for my family home, and I also am the architect. I work at Pad Architects in town.
Oh, right, excellent. And
so-
Louise is kindly offered to answer any questions that we may have.
Yeah, so there's some minor external changes. We've tried to keep them as minimal as possible, because to give you a little bit of background, we approached the owners when through Pad Architecture I found out that the building was up to be demolished, and kind of slightly appalled by that, I approached the owners privately and to see if we could make a separate agreement with them. Found out that their contract with the developer was due to end, and so said, the day that ends, I'll do this and we'll take it off your hands to stop it getting demolished, which we found out just before it had been refused. So we were really pleased that it had been refused to be demolished, but we had already taken it away from Blue Homes before that point. Hence why this application has come in so quickly following that one. So I was busy trying to do it already for when we could put that in. So the external changes are as minimal as we can make it to make it habitable and an adequate family home. And also a home office for myself, a lot with the home working, and my partner who runs Southwest Marquees, which is a local business in Nunney. So he's grown up in Frome. So yeah, we're a local family. So there's three new roof lights to one end, just to make some natural ventilation into the upper rooms for my two young daughters. And then we're increasing the size of the door to the southwest elevation at the back, and increasing the window overlooking the spiral stairs, because I love it. And opening up that internally. So externally it is minimal. There's the fiberboard cladding that's on there at the moment, which kind of adds to the commercial look of the building. We did want to make it feel slightly more domestic, so we have proposed to change that for a timber cladding, a black timber. I've been in touch with the 20th Century Society today actually to confirm the finishes, but black timber to the facade to keep the kind of monochrome striking kind of look of the building, but natural finish to the soffit. And that's purely just to give it a more domestic feel. Other than that, we're not proposing to change anything.
Great. Excellent. Thank you.
But yeah, any questions that you've got, please do ask. Sorry if I'm a bit shaky. I haven't spoken, probably been sat in a room for a year. Only talking to a 1 and 4-year-old, occasional clients.
That's very interesting.
Just a really quick question. It was just sprung to mind as you're saying that, talking that. Black timber cladding sounds great. I'm just interested, is it stained or is it burnt?
Well, I would love to burn it. We would do everything ourselves. So we've done a few properties in Frome, done them up and sold them on. You may well know you don't make money through architecture. So the way we've managed to get to this point is by doing up a few properties, moving my family every, whereas we're like, this is it now. If we get this is our family home forever. So we'd like to take our time. So we'll do it all ourselves. So it'll all be a case of when we've got the money, we'll do that bit. And I would like to burn it. Yeah. I mean, of course, I'm an architect. If we can't do that, it'll be stained and painted. So I've just said black for now, to try and give us that leeway. But yeah, I would like to, because the sheen you get off it in the sun is just lovely. But yeah, it will be a case of setting up the burner and trying it out.
There was some comments about parking.
Yeah.
If you could just
know
where that sort of sits at the moment. I know you're having ongoing discussions, but just for people sort of listening on live.
We are. So initially the original owner left the gates open. Although this is a private site, hence why it's a kind of a Class E building and not a kind of class F1. It is a private commercial property, but the current owners on goodwill left the site open to be used by the pharmacy, even though their lease on the parking spaces had expired.
Right.
The pharmacy asked for the gates to be locked because public were coming in, parking and becoming aggressive with the pharmacy when the pharmacy users were blocking them. So the pharmacy would like to shut the gates at night. Residents' cars or people using the car park were getting blocked in. They were then aggressively coming into the pharmacy saying that their cars had been stolen. So the pharmacy actually asked for the owner to lock the gates. And they've since been locked for a long time. We are proposing, so I'm talking to the owner of the pharmacy, ongoing discussions, in talking about actually gifting him this section of this, sorry, shall I hold that up for everyone to see? Gifting him this section of the site. And I've been doing some sketch proposals, although he would have to formally apply to be able to provide, again, it would be private, but private parking for the pharmacy.
Right.
So I've been doing some sketch proposals for him that would allow them to kind of back up into our access to be able to make that safe. And we look like we can get 3 spaces there, which, yeah, so it's been a discussion with the pharmacy owner, which is ongoing, which is why it hasn't formed part of this application, because while we wait for this to go, we're sort of homeless, so we needed to do it as quickly as we could. But that is an ongoing discussion that we're having with the pharmacy, because we want them to continue being a sustainable business. So although this proposal doesn't make their current situation worse, we'd like to make it better. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Any other? Thank you. Any other questions?
Just to note that I have already sent out letters to all of the neighbours. So I sent that out before I made the application, just because obviously there was a lot of contention around the site, and seeing as we want to live there, I wanted to kind of make ourselves known. And we've had a lot of discussions with the neighbours. One neighbour has already put a letter of support, and another neighbour has said that they are just about to put a letter of support in. And we've had support from Val and Fred across the road, and I've spoken to Councillor Shane Collins and Councillor Helen Kay and sent them the letters and been in correspondence with them, because obviously they're the ward councillors for the area. So we've been kind of quite proactive with the neighbours, and at the moment it's all very positive feeling with everyone, because we have got some ideas. We've got neighbours coming in who want to convert their vans, so we said use the site because there's no space for locals to do that. My partner's very keen to, my friend Emma Parker works on sustainable transport in Frome, so we're keen to use the site for the pop-up bike workshops, and we're not a closed off family. Like, I want my kids to be involved in these kinds of things. They've grown up here, want them to learn about bikes, we want them to learn about vehicles. My partner's forever tinkering and building and fixing, but we want that to feel like part of the site. So we're very keen to open that up. He wants to run woodworking workshops with kids, so we kind of want to use the site for that as well. Not just for us.
That's very interesting.
There's a letter of support from Terry as well, I think.
I mean, he was, obviously I've worked for PAD since I moved to Frome, and he's supported, he was the person that told me about it, and from a kind of, I know there's that link, but from a kind of sustainable and green perspective, I've got aspirations for this property where it's got a massive expanse of south-facing roof. I mean, it's just calling out for solar, absolutely calling out for it. Again, it will be something that we will probably install and do ourselves. purely kind of my partner can, and we have to do it as we go. And air source to put in. And both my directors have got their carbon neutral houses, and they're recently refurbed, so I get sacked if I don't do the same. So yeah, we've got kind of aspirations for it, but it will be a slow process for us.
Yeah. Well, that was concluded. I don't think we have any objections.
No.
So,
We actively support.
Exactly, yeah. Quite, yeah. Sounds a very good project.
Okay, thank you.
so as a suggested response, clearly, as you said, we have no objection, and we're pleased to see the building retained and being reused as a family home. We're also pleased to see that there is the opportunity for the provision of parking for the neighbouring pharmacy. Trying to squeeze other people in the room.
Yeah, excellent. So someone could propose that for me?
Well, I think we wanted to, like we did before, just say that we positively support this.
Yeah.
I will change positively support from no objection.
Yeah,
So rather than saying no objection, we'll positively support this application.
Thank you. Excellent. Someone propose that, please? Second, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you very much. And thank you, Louise.
Okay,
Sorry
well, thank you ever so much.
So you had to wait a while.
Thank you.
And,
I felt like mine was going to be a completely inadequate presentation after that amazing presentation you got with the slide. Thank you for your support, and I'm sure that we'll be seeing more of everyone when we can get the site up and running.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, so I haven't actually highlighted any others specifically for discussion, but I know from the comments I've received back from councillors there are some of interest that might like to discuss. Is there any others anybody want to raise specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything majorly contentious in here, but there was a couple of things. Application 583, which that was Marston Lane, I think.
Foxbury, Marston Lane.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I've said in my notes that I support that and their material uses, etc. And said I hope that the dwelling will be thermally upgraded at the same time as kind of aesthetically upgraded, if you like. And I noticed also that the Civic Society said something similar, that it, if they're going to put cladding on the outside, it should also be insulated externally. I don't know if it'd be useful to make that comment.
Okay, so just to clarify, this is the application 583 on the list, Foxbury, Marston Lane. It's for the renovations to include front porch extension and rear chimney addition to the existing bungalow. My observations are that it won't have any impact on the neighbours, and in fact the reason that they want to do these works is because the existing property is actually overlooked by the neighbours already, and they want to take advantage of the view to the rear. And I will read out the Civic Society's comments. Just here we go. So the Civic Society said no objection in principle, but that doesn't make sense. No objection in principle. But the proposal to reclad the exterior of the bungalow with timber does not take advantage of including additional thermal insulation, which seems a missed opportunity. Similarly, there is no mention of roof insulation. Depending on the colour of the cladding, the hit and miss design can look very striking. We recommend condition that the sample panel should be sufficiently large to make a proper judgment and that the immediate neighbours should have the opportunity to comment. So essentially, we'd like to reiterate the comments of the Civic Society regarding the film installation of the building. So if everybody is happy with that as a response.
Okay, someone propose that?
Yeah.
Great. Someone seconded it, I'll second it.
I think John has a question.
Yeah. Hi, John.
Hi,
Oh, you just muted yourself.
can I talk about one of the other proposals?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so are we, is it okay to move on?
Yeah, just, Jamie,
I don't think we actually got to a vote.
Okay,
Right.
fine.
Last one.
let me, Paul's proposing, I'll second, all those in favour,
And that's unanimous.
Right.
And the councillors in the room.
thank you. Okay, John, over to you.
Okay, so for me, it's just quick. It's proposal 581, which is 2 Fairview, Eggford Lane and Frome. And I've been looking at some of the objections, etc. I just want to make the comment. I mean, I know that because I walk by it all the time because I go out there dog walking out that direction. And I just want to make the general point that even within a conservation area, that you can actually conserve and change and improve at the same time. And so I think what they're trying to do with those buildings is going to improve them. I don't think I don't see any major problem with what they're proposing there. So I just want to make that simple point. I don't know what we're going to submit forward on that particular one, but I hadn't had a chance to make comments on that particular one before the meeting today. Thank you.
Thanks, John. I don't have any issue with that at all. I don't, anyone else has got any comments on that?
I agree with John, really, I think.
Yeah, I think we all agree with you, John, to be perfectly honest. I think it's a great way of putting some pretty untidy buildings looking quite nicely.
Yeah, I mean, I had said in my notes that I sent out to councillors that actually I didn't see that there were any issues with this application, and suggested that this might be one that we want to actively support, based on the fact that they are looking to update the building and bring it up to the present day requirements, in terms of how people can live in it and the installation and so on. So that was my suggested comment.
Well, I'm happy to propose that because second that. Share, if we're all happy with that.
Actually, no.
Great, thank you. Yeah. I think we probably should mention 585 and 586 just briefly because it's quite a large amount of work that's going on in a listed building.
Okay, so this is College Place, 7 Wallbridge Frome. The application descriptions for the demolition of conservatory and outbuildings, erection of a single-storey extension and orangery, fenestration, internal alterations, extension of existing garage and a new carport, widening of vehicle access, erection of stone gate posts, alterations to existing boundary wall. So yes, there is a lot going on there. This is a listed building, so there are extensive plans that accompany the application, together with the heritage and design and access statements. Clearly, there's a lot of history to this building. It appears that previously alterations have been made to the building that weren't necessarily sympathetic with its listed status, dividing up rooms or sectioning off windows, spoiling the overall look of the property, and it appears from the plans that actually what the owners are looking to do is to reinstate the building to some of its former glory, shall we say, and more in line with its original how it was originally built. I certainly haven't identified any issues, and actually, given that it is a listed building and to really properly assess it, you would need access to look at it, and therefore, you know, it's one that I think we would rely on its conservation officer to advise on whether the proposed alterations are suitable.
Yeah, as you say, I think it's just, as you rightly put on your notes, definitely one for the conservation officer to really look at closely. That's really all we need to say on that.
Well, yeah, just one small general point on that, which I often say is, I support it, and there's a lot of detail in there, and I think it's definitely one for the conservation officer. The only small thing I would say is, personally, in this personal opinion, I'd quite like the extension to be distinctive rather than being kind of copied from the original building. But that's personal.
So is that straightforward, no objection, or one that you would like to actively support? Not quite sure how councillors feel about that.
I would support it as a general issue, that, you know, when you're upgrading something, when you're changing something, whether having the changes visible. So it's quite a standard thing to do. But maybe it's not standard, but I think it's something that, you know, rationality actually do actively make sure that the changes are visible, so you can see them. So, the Civic Society mentioned like that.
They have said quite a lot, actually, I'm sure they have. They've gone into a bit more detail about perhaps how the building would have been originally. Just scan through it. They have suggested that the talking about breathable line render, wood fibre is preferable to the sharp modern appearance of silicone render, but requires a visible break line above ground level, which is not shown in drawings. So no, actually that's not the same as what we're talking about. But actually what you're saying is you would the extensions should be obvious that they're recent additions, and not station heritage. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've not objecting, but we're going to refer to the conservation officer, but we would like to see the extensions as a separate design to the original.
Is that something that we can actually, that particular sentence around, you know, the upgrading this building changes in historic building in town? Is it something that we as a council stand with yourself?
It isn't part of the neighbourhood plan. There is some reference to design in the town design statement, but that does depend on different areas, different character areas. As you know, we are looking at putting together, we're calling it a wish list currently, which sets out the key points of what we would expect to see in terms of design, and that's certainly something that we can add in, but Mend it themselves produce house extension design guides, but it is actually one of the guidelines in there that any extension, whether it be a listed building or on property, should actually, you know, be distinct from the original building, so you can see that it is clearly an addition. But yeah, that's certainly something that we can build into our wish list going forward as a standard.
Yeah, that would be useful.
Right, should we go over that one, then, please? Close that. Sure. And Paul second.
So that's a majority vote with one abstention.
I think John's got his hand up. Put your hand up, John.
Vote.
No, I was supporting.
Unfortunately, you can't vote.
Yeah, I think I missed that memo. I should have come over to the hall today.
Never mind, in the future, that's good. It's
Good to see you back, John.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
good.
well done.
Thanks.
Okay, so if there are no others to be raised for discussion, are councillors happy for our standard response of no objection to be given on it? Sorry, remaining applications.
So close that, please. Thank you, Paul. So second.
That's unanimous for the councillors in the chamber. Thank you.
Great. Jane, thank you, everybody. Talk to me to a close, and the next meeting.